What is up, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. Hopefully everyone's having a really good day. I know I am. In our previous video, we're just going to jump right on into it. We were talking about, we examined 3 different ways a portfolio can be unified through a strong vision or a concept, right? And these ideas include a descriptive, explanatory, and an interpretive approach to your artwork. Right, a descriptive portfolio is going to focus on a clear and careful describing on the surface of people, places, or objects, and the goal is accurate and clarity is what is being shown. Right, explanatory portfolios attempt to illustrate or document something very specific, often titled to a particular time or place. And these photographs usually contain visual clues that allow the viewers to understand when and where these images were specifically taken. An interpretive portfolio is going to be more on the poetic and expressive and sometimes fictional imagery. Instead of documenting reality, these photographs emphasize emotion, imagination, and an artistic expression. Right? And so in today's video, we added 3 more concepts to the list. We have ethically evaluated, aesthetically evaluated, and theoretically evaluated. An ethically evaluated portfolio uses photographs to make moral and ethical statements about society. And these images are praised or criticized on a key social issue and frequently politically engaged. And an aesthetically evaluated portfolio is focusing on visual beauty and the experience of seeing. This emphasis is on form, composition, and light, and the viewer's particular experience. So let's start with a theoretical evaluated portfolio. Comments on art itself, right? These projects often question photography as a medium and explore how images are created and understood. Nearly every photograph, from a casual snapshot to fine art prints, can fall into one of these categories for what we just talked about. And the goal is to choose one concept that will guide you and your dominant within your portfolio that you're trying to create, right? And a concept is very, very important. I think a lot of photographers don't understand how a concept works and why a concept is so important. When you ask people, well, why'd you shoot that? Right? Most of them can't even explain why they're doing something, right? And that's not good. So we're going to talk about Terry Barrett. And in criticizing photographs, right, she's describing, ethically evaluated photograph as a work that does more than simply describe a subject, while some images attempt a scientific explanation and others offer personal interpretations. And these photographs ultimately make some sort of ethical judgment. They praise or condemn an aspect of society and often are politically engaged and emotionally passionate. Because of a strong moral perspective, ethically evaluated photographs is not commonly used in commercial photography. Art directors typically avoid these type of portfolios that appear overly political or preachy, since strong political positions can alternate potential clients with their viewpoints, right? Now, however, ethically evaluated concepts are extremely powerful, for example, in documentary and fine art photography. A good example of this is one of my favorite artists is Dawn Ferriertos. Her 1991 project, Living with the Enemy, right? And that alone, living with the enemy, what could that be, right? And it's quite powerful. If you've never seen her portfolio, I'll put it in the link down below in the description. Please, before you look at it, it is very violent, and it's something that is not for the faint of heart. So I'm warning you now. If you don't have a strong heart, it's heavy in domestic violence and abuse. So if you don't want to see that, just avoid it. But what she focused it on, what her focus was domestic violence. And Donna's work is openly an activist. She wanted not only to document domestic violence, but help stop it. And her book is, very educational materials about domestic abuse, such as controlling behaviors, signs of emotional and economic abuse, examples of physical violence, and resources for people who are experiencing this type of problem. It also provides, advice to get help from friends and within an abusive relationship, and lists phone numbers for victims to call to help get support. So not only is she creating something, she's showcasing something because she's trying to make a change. And her work explains that when she's explaining her motive, it came from the willingness of domestic violence while on an assignment for a magazine she was shooting with. And when she was seeing a man hit his wife, it deeply affected her and changed her belief, and she had to grow up with. And that home should be a place of safety, peace, and a love. And that experience, changed her career as a photographer. Instead of focusing on the romantic side of love, she became committed to documenting the harsh reality of domestic abuse. Her project contains 175 photographs showcasing domestic violence from multiple perspectives. These images include, of women being abused, portraits showing injuries after violence, photographs of police arresting the abusers, a scene from shelters, self defense classes, counseling sessions from abusive men, and even more of reconciliation. And managing such a large body of work could easily become chaotic. And what kept this project very cohesive is its central concept. And again, everything comes back to the concept. Every image supports the goal of exposing and confronting what? Domestic violence. And if she had include, unrelated images such as an abstract photograph or poetic landscape, the project would lose its focus and the emotional impact that she is then trying to create. Another good example of an ethically evaluated documentary project is, and I'm sorry if I mess this name up, Gastuvo Janvikits, an ongoing project with the Richlands. His work examines environmental exploitation in Latin America and its effects on the ecosystem, local economics, and human rights. So, again, political. And when he photographed the environment, destruction in Brazil, Peru, Venezuela, Ecuador, right? In Brazil, he documented how the global damage from soybeans had pushed agricultural expansion into the Amazon rainforest, displacing local communities and so forth. But in Peru, he photographed the La Ora, and I don't know if I said that right, La Ora, Oroya, which is one of the most populated places in the world. Will children suffer dangerous levels of lead poisoning caused by industrial smelting. In Ecuador, he documented long-term effects from oil drilling in the Amazon, where toxic wastewater contaminated rivers used by local communities. Um, his work is not neutral, but his photographs are meant to raise awareness and encourage change. Documentary photography is therefore a natural fit for ethical evaluative projects. Now, let's transition to fine art, right? Fine art photography can also be used for this concept. For example, photograph Nancy Berson, he created the human race machine, and intro interactive photo booth that allow participants to see how they would appear as a different race. And his goal was to change the idea that race is biological. She emphasized that race is largely a social concept and that humans are genetically 99.9% identical. And her project encourages viewers to develop empathy and recognize the shared humanity. Another good example, another good photographer is Larry Fink, whose series The Forbidden Picture, a political tablex uh, of the politics in George W. Bush administration using actors portraying political figures. And Larry staged dramatic scenes that the citizens within the U.S. foreign policy and political power. And so landscape photograph can also carry an ethical evaluated message. Another good one is Robert Glenn. He's known for using his landscape photography to advocate for environmental conservation. Conversation. There we go. And in his images through the Alaska tundra, the national forest helped convince the U.S. Congress to protect. Oh, and I think this is cool. He convinced Congress to protect over 1 million acres of old growth forest. And his work combines multiple concepts. His landscapes must be visually beautiful, which connects the aesthetically evaluated approach in his work, but at the same time, they document real places and their environmental areas, giving them a descriptive and ethical dimension. And if an unrelated image, such as an abstract close-up of a pine cone, were to be included in the series, it would wreck the overall message, right? This is where the cohesion and concept, as we're talking about it, we can see how it's all rounding out, right? A highlight important part of this lesson, when you're planning your portfolio, your concept must remain a clear and focus, right? What are we shooting and why are we shooting? You're going to take photos, you're going to add photos, you're going to remove photos, you're going to add and remove. Does this fit? Does this not fit? Why does this fit? Why does this one not fit? Can I reshoot it to make it fit, right? So, so those are the aesthetically evaluated and descriptive evaluated. Now, the next category is aesthetically evaluated portfolio, right? So before we were talking about ethically evaluated a portfolio. Now we're going to move forward with aesthetically evaluated. And these projects focus primarily on the visual beauty and the experience of looking, right? Barrett describes this type of work within photographs that highlight the subject the photograph believes is worthy of getting the eyes on. A good example is Australian photograph Kate Breakkey, who photographed birds, flowers, butterflies, even fruit. And she created them on a black and white silver gelatin prints and then hand colored them with layers of oil, paint, and pencils. And her work celebrates light, color, texture, and a form emphasizing beauty as a visual pleasure. Aesthetic photography can also explore deeper questions about perception and spiritual experience. Romanian photographer Ain Zapuca, for example, and I hope I said that right, often created images, that challenged how we perceive and shapes and space, making viewers question, what are we seeing, right? So, it's pretty straightforward. And then the last one is theoretical evaluated projects, and these photographs are essentially about the photograph itself. Brent describes these work as a form of visual art that criticizes the use of images instead of words. So this concept is more relevant in fine art. A well-known example is Thomas Ruff's portrait series. Ruff's portraits are intentionally neutral and standardized, but questioning the idea that the portrait reveals a person's inner essence. Instead, they highlight the photography's ability to record the surface appearance. Another good example is Elian Carey's Polaroid pulls and rollbacks. Carey physically pulls large sheets of Polaroid film through a camera, allowing the developer and dye to simmer across the surface. This resulting image are abstract, but they really are about the photographic process itself, right? Over the last couple of minutes, we've explored, a 6 different conceptual approach to building a portfolio, right? And as we move forward with these videos, I want you to try and do this project with me, right? Keep several key points in mind from this videos, rewatch them if you have to. But first, your portfolio should have one dominant theme that creates unity and cohesion. And if an image jumps between unrelated concepts in one aesthetic or one descriptive and one interpretive, the viewers will struggle to understand what you're trying to convey to them. Okay? The second thing is certain concepts work better for certain types of photography. A descriptive approach often works well in commercial photography, while explanatory, I am struggling with that word today. Explanatory and ethically evaluated themes are especially effective within documentary work. Finally, some of the most interesting projects combine multiple themes. A documentary project might primarily be explanatory while also incorporating interpretive elements. Another good project might focus mainly on ethical issues while still managing descriptive qualities. And combining concepts, throughout your project can add depth and complexity to your work while still maintaining a very clear vision. So hopefully you like this video. We're going to keep moving forward, talking about portfolios and stuff like that. And, eventually we're actually going to make a physical portfolio. And in our next video, we're going to talk about cohesion and variation. Okay, so hopefully you like this. Please hit that like button, please subscribe, and I'll see you in my next video.